Hello everybody, welcome to the channel, J.I. Colorist. My name is Jody and today we are going to paint with and play with some Craft Smart Tempera Paint sticks. So let's start off with what exactly is Tempera Paint sticks. Basically, Tempera Paint is a water soluble permanent, semi-permanent paint in a stick that is used mainly with children, and it is also commonly called poster paint. You can use this on glass, so you can draw on your windows and such. It will wash off with soap and water. If you leave it say on a pallet or something, it may need to be soaked for a while, but it will come off. So that's why it's called washable. So it's not permanent, whereas acrylic paint can be more of a permanent, where paint sticks, the Tempera Paint sticks, are not. So they're generally considered semi-permanent. And let's go ahead. It comes in a tube. That's why it's called a paint stick. This is the Craft Smart brand, and it rolls up. It is soft like lipstick. It dries pretty much immediately, but it dries for sure within 2 minutes. So it's best placed down, and if you rub it, you will kind of start to feel it stiffening up and pilling, and actually it will start to pull the pigment off of the paper. So to get a smooth application, it's best to put it on and just kind of leave it alone, or use more of a silicone tipped tool to move it around. It is water soluble, so you can take a water brush and move it around. So you can move it somewhat. It's not as water soluble as, say, a Neo Color 2 or an actual watercolor, but it does move with a water brush. So it comes in pastels, it comes in neons, it comes in brights, it comes in, so there's a regular, here is more of a neon color, but this one is actually called from the neon set. So the ones that are called neon actually are a little bit more sheer and translucent than the ones that are just from the classic set. Then we also have metallic. So I've got 4 greens total, 2 from the classic set, 1 from the neon set, and 1 from the metallic set. And I'll just roll it up. Now the metallic is more of a sparkly sheen than an actual glitter. So you can see that sheen there. And it is also pretty translucent. So this layers on nicely on top of illustrators in a coloring book, and you can see through these. You can see through this one too. The darker ones become a little bit more opaque, so that is something to note. This is a metallic silver, just to show you how sheer it is. I really have been enjoying the metallic gold, and it is so far the shiniest. You can see the shine there. The silver is also shiny, but nothing like the gold, just really radiates. Because these are paint, you can, and they layer well, so you can take a purple, and then you can also, so that was a classic purple, and if I had another blue purple that was metallic, I could layer that on top. If I don't have a purple metallic, I can take the gold and layer it on top, and then you will have the gold sheen on top of your purple. They do also go on top of colored pencil, and they go on top really nicely of alcohol markers. So here is another. This is the silver. I also have 2 whites. I have a classic white, and then I have a metallic white. So let's lay down a dark blue. There's a nice bright blue. I'll put a little bit down. You don't need to keep going over and over. As soon as you've got a nice coverage, I would go ahead and stop. Here is the regular white, and it's pretty opaque. So shortly I'll show you how I make clouds with them. And then this is the metallic. They both seem to be about the same opaqueness, but the this one, once it dries, it will have a shine to it, where the other one won't be quite as shiny. I do like the metallic black. If you are doing a black night sky, it has some silver sparkle on it. So it's just fun. It's just an alternative. It does not move the same way a gelato does. It does not move the same way a gel crayon. So you can't apply it to a palette and then pick it up with a brush and bring it over. That does not work. It dries too quickly for that type of application. So I will show you how I can color with them and use another tool to color using a silicone tip tool, and I'll show you that shortly in this video as I show you some ways that I have used them in my coloring books. And I think that's what we're all here for, is to find out if this is a tool that we can use in our coloring books. And you certainly can use it in a sketchbook and multimedia and that kind of thing, but our channel mainly focuses on coloring. So let's take a look how I've used them in my past coloring. Before we do that, let's take a quick look at all the swatches that I have. So the paint sticks that I have are, again, the Craft Smart brand from Michaels, and I have two sets. I have the set that comes with neon and metallics, and those are these ones on the outside leaf circle, and then I have the classic colors, which are 16 on the inside circle. So and I've done these a while ago, so when you tilt it, you do see that there is a sparkle on the metallic ones, and then of course the neons are just neon. The neons are quite sheer, which is kind of fun, and then these are the classic colors on the inside, and they are still sheer but more opaque. So if you layered them up a couple of times, they probably would be more opaque. And obviously certain colors are more opaque than, say, the lighter green here is quite sheer, and the light blue. So that is what the swatches look like. The size of this, I'll just get a ruler. So this one is 5 inches in length, and it is a little bit smaller than a lipstick tube or a glue stick. You can get, so this is what they call a thin stick. You can get chunkier ones that are more the size of a glue stick, and they're just a little bit more larger in diameter. I selected these ones on purpose because I did want to try and actually color with them, so I did get the narrower ones. But if you are looking on Amazon for them or in store, you do see a lot that are this size. So just so you know. Definitely don't spend a lot on them. They are a kids' art supply, but as anything that is new and trendy, sometimes the prices go up. So just keep an eye out for sales, but definitely don't be spending $30 on a package of these. All right, let's take a look at some of my colorings that I've done with these. Some examples of me using the Tempera paints in my coloring books. This is the Mouse Guard by David Peterson, and I used the Tempera paints for the blue in the background and the green and the gold on here, and the gold is shiny and so is the green. I also used it on a double page spread. Let me grab it. I used it on this double page. So this is this shiny metallic gold, and you can see how shiny and metallic that is. And then this is the neon blue. So it's quite transparent, as you can see. And I just went right over top of the illustrators, and you can still see the illustration underneath. So that was an easy way that I used the tempera paints in the David Peterson's Mouse Guard book. Another example of the tempera paint sticks is from the Traveling Tales Australia, and I traced out the continent Australia on here, and then I actually colored it with alcohol marker, and then I went on top of it with the metallic blue, and as you can see, it's quite shiny. And in order to move it around, I really just went and scribbled right on top of it, and I actually used a blending stump to get into a few areas closer to it. But it was just really nice to add some sparkle, and the blue underneath totally shined through. So it was nice and easy, and just add a little bit of dimension to this fun page. This next page is a page that I did with completely with the tempera paint sticks and then a little bit of gel pen. And it's a busy page that I wouldn't normally tackle, but the tempera paint made it really easy. And so I just used a lot of the neon and the metallic, because that's all I had at the time. And I just basically rubbed and scribbled right on top of the page. I didn't do a lot of anything else. I used all of this is the tempera paint sticks, and there's just a little bit of gel pen in some of the smaller lined areas that I did afterwards. So this whole page, basically 98% of it is tempera paint sticks, and no bleed through, of course, and it is quite shiny. This is a couple of months ago now, and the gold is really still very shiny, as well as the green. And yeah, so the blue on the birds is shiny, but the blue in the background is not, so it kind of grounds the page a little bit. Really fun and easy to use. Now, to get close to this, I just basically use some post-it notes to avoid getting into certain areas while I was scribbling on the page. Lots of fun and super easy to do. Easy clouds with the tempera paint sticks. Simply go onto my coloring page and scribble like you were a kid. Now you can leave white on the page, or you could color them all in. I tend to just leave some white, because then I'm actually going to take a white one on top and kind of blend it in a little bit. So it looks a little bit more natural. If you want to take your finger, or quite often I'll use a makeup sponge applicator and blend it in. They does go on top of each other, the tempera paint, and it dries quite quickly. So you just work with the clouds until you have it the way you want it. So that's kind of fun, because sometimes you put a color down and you're like, oh, that was a bit much. So this is a gray. We could also add some gray to the bottom of a cloud. You could have a little bit more of a moody cloud feel. So you can just dull it down. But yeah, really easy to do clouds. So let's try these out together. I'm going to do a little bit of coloring. I know this is a Christmas page and we are not in Christmas. However, I just thought it would be fun. So I've got a metallic one. This is a gray, and maybe I'll drop you down a little bit. Okay, so I am going to be using a couple of things. I've got a paper stump here, and I've just, you roll this up and down as you need. And this paper itself is pretty smooth. It's a little bit slippery even. And I'm just rubbing directly on here. And I'm going to go even here. So I'll do another one right here. So this is gray, and I'm going to come in with the silver metallic on top. And this is already dry. Okay, here we are back at the same page after I've done a little bit more, just to show you that this is the gray with the silver metallic on top, and this one is the non-metallic. Totally both dry. Then I did this one, which is just the gold metallic with nothing underneath, and see how shiny that is. So I'm really pleased, and it's also pretty transparent. So you can still see the lines underneath. If you go over the lines like I had done a little bit here and up here, I just come in with a fine liner and go over top of the lines once I'm finished. Now I've done some of the leaves. This is in non-metallic. I've got a couple of, I have a darker green and a lighter green. This lighter green is quite bright. And how I'm getting into these really small leaves, so I'll zoom you in a bit. If you can see, for these leaves, I did the base, and then I used a water brush to move the pigment around. So that's, we'll do one of those together. And for this one, these are really super tiny. And if I wanted to just have fun and be doing kind of a multimedia thing, I could either grab something else, but I'm just using a silicone tip tool, and I'm just putting a bit of pigment onto the tip of my tool itself, and then I'm just coming in and basically painting or smooshing it on to the leaves themselves. And this is also what I do to get into really tight areas. So if I'm trying to do a certain, like say the bell, and I wanted to get in closer to the edge, I would just take some pigment direct from the stick and apply it using the silicone tip tool. Now the silicone tip tool seems to work for me a little bit better than the paper stump, and I think that's just because it's not drying on the silicone tool, and I'm able to mush it around. As the paper stump, it actually dries on the paper stump, similar to the actual coloring page. And if I want, say I didn't get that moved around enough just using a small water brush, I can actually, it's paint, so it will dissolve, and you can move things around that way too. So you're going to have to wait for it to dry though if you use a water brush. Whereas if you're just using the pigment and the silicone tip tool, it dries pretty much immediately as soon as you're done. So that's a couple of other ways that you can use the pigment sticks. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit, and we are going to do these flowers here. And I'm actually going to do them in red. And I'm just going to go around like that. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush or my water brush so it's going to be darker in the center because I'm not diluting that out, but I am bringing the petal outwards. So once it dries, it'll be darker in the center and then a little less dark. The consistency feels kind of like lipstick. So it's that soft, creamy, but it doesn't stay creamy for long because it does dry quite quickly. So that's another way that you can use the paint sticks. Might as well finish off this little picture with some purple, and I'm just going to pick it up. And then for the rest of the twigs and such, I will just use a gel pen. And again, if I don't like the way that's gone on, just using a water brush. I'll kind of dissolve that and smooth it out a little bit. So if you have watercolors or something else, then I mean, not necessarily, I wouldn't do this for every page, but it is kind of fun to use different mediums once in a while, and this may also give you some ideas on how to use the mediums that you do have, because you certainly don't need to buy everything out there. But if you can't find gel sticks and you have some of these kicking around because maybe you have kids' art supplies already at your house, by all means grab them and have a little bit of fun in your coloring books with them. Once your tempera paint has dried, you can certainly come in with a micron and not only tighten up the lines on the outside where you may have gotten a little close, but you can also make lines and draw right on top of the paint itself. So that's kind of nice. So do a little bit here. Our next example is Traveling Tales North America. This is a bold and easy coloring book, and this is a book that has very, very simplistic images in it. In fact, it just has one image per page, and for me that's a little too simple, and that's not really my style. I like to fill up my page, and so I like to do a background. I'm just going to raise the camera up a little bit. So as you can see, this little fox here only has a basketball and nothing else. So what I thought I would do is actually draw a basketball on here. So I used a flat compass and just traced or drew a circle around, something simple and easy. And now I am going to just color that in, and the basketball is orangey brown. And so let's check out a couple of colors that I have options to. Testing out the colors to see which one works best. Wow, that's bright. So those are my color options that I have. Let me think about it. So I've decided to use this this color here. Basketball is kind of in between these two colors. Definitely not that orange. So I'm going to go this color though, because I'm probably going to color him a little bit closer to this color. So let's just go ahead and start. And it just goes on very smooth. Now you'll notice that this is going on, let me show you, a lot smoother than when I was on the watercolor paper, and that's because this paper doesn't really have any texture. It's just a regular smooth coloring book page, whereas the watercolor paper had a lot of, it was cold pressed and had a lot of texture. So you can get up pretty close to the line. Simple as that. When you're starting to get a little close to the object, you can get as close as you want, and then you can stop and use your silicone tip tool, or you could use a water brush. Probably I would start with the silicone tip tool, or if you don't have one of those, using a paper stump. So we'll just show you how that works. And you're just kind of mushing it around. So if you had a masking fluid, I guess you could try using that. But in cheaper books, masking fluid actually typically will rip the paper when coming off. So this is an Amazon printed book, so using masking fluid is really kind of a little bit more than this paper can handle. It's surprisingly easy to get in and around the object. And you can roll it up if you need to get a little bit more of an edge. But as you can see, not having too much trouble. Now, I like to do this before I color, because then if I do have any overage that I need to correct, I can come in with a water brush and clean up the edge. And I just use a tissue to wipe off. So here we've got a little bit of overage. And then I can come in and color this image and correct anything. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll carry on and color this whole thing. Then it will dry, and then I will draw in the lines to make it look like a basketball. And if you want a different color on top, I could also come in and add some shading or something with another color if you want to get a little bit fancier. So yeah, this isn't too intricate of a picture, so I am able to pretty much just get right in there and close to the whole image. If you had a bunch of tiny flowers, that would be a little bit more difficult. So what I do like is that this dries so much faster than gelatos. Gelatos are still my number one easy background for sure. So this does not replace them. This is just an alternative in certain situations. And it's just fun to play with kids' art supplies, actually. They are layerable. You can come in and go on top of this with another color. They don't mix very well, but they do layer. And there you go. That is as easy as that. Doing a simple background. If there's any spots that need a little bit more, just right on top. Let me go draw some lines on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here it is with a little bit of the drawing of the lines. Now I'm just going to shade a little bit with this other color, just to add a bit of different color to the basketball, since it really isn't such a light brown color. I'm not going to attempt to write Wilson on there, because I don't think that they would appreciate their basketballs looking like mine. But there you go. That's a simple, easy background, and no bleed through, of course. And I will go ahead and finish coloring him later. But I just wanted to show you how easy it is to do a background with tempera paint sticks. Okay. For the next demonstration, I'm going to be using some watercolor cold pressed paper, and just wanted to let you know it's 9 by 12 inches. So that is the paper I'm going to use, and I'm going to apply some of the tempera paints, and then I'm going to use some stencils in a little bit of a different way to lift the tempera paint up and leave an impression afterwards. So I'm not going to be putting the paint on top of the stencil. In fact, I'm going to be removing it through the stencil. Going to need a decent amount on here, and it is quite a textured paper, so I'm just going to rub it in a little bit with my finger. And it does seem to stay movable on a watercolor paper a little bit more than on my regular copy or coloring book paper, so that is something to note. And this is another brown, just kind of mixing up the... Okay. I'm going to take a stencil, and I'm going to take a makeup wipe. So I'm not using like a Lysol wipe, I'm using a makeup wipe because it is a little less toxic. And then I'm just going to rub it and lift some of the paint off. And there you see the imprint. So I think that this would be an excellent use of using the Tempera Paint sticks to do a night sky and then lift off some stars. And you can lift off as much or as little as you like. So that's one way to use a stencil, and then just clean off your stencil. You can also do some wood. I'm using watercolor paper for this method so that there's sizing on the paper, so you are able to lift it. So your coloring book may not lift exactly the same way. It will lift somewhat, but it may not lift as much. So just so you know. But if you want to use some mixed media, or you want to print a coloring page onto watercolor paper and then use it as a background, that's totally an excellent option. Here's a little bit closer up view. Sorry for the distance earlier. So that's how this looks. I'm actually going to now do a little bit of a night sky, and I'm going to use both the non-metallic and the metallic just to give a little bit of a different look. So if you're looking to do a black background, this is certainly easy. So this one is the non-metallic, and once it dries it will be flat and it will dry very quickly. This is the metallic, so I'm going to just go right on top of that. And there we have some shine now. I'm going to take some stencils. So the rest of your page will be bright and shiny. So I kind of call this reverse stenciling, if that makes any sense. But it does give a nice effect, and it's an easy thing to do. Okay. Another way to use a stencil with the Tempera paints is to place your stencil down and bring in a gel pen and or you could use paint, but I find a gel pen I have a little bit more control about where the ink is flowing. If you're using paint, it will seep underneath. Now you can also just trace the outline and then do the rest of this afterwards. And this is still a little bit tacky. So that was using silver. Now I'm going to use a Uniball Posca. So a couple of ways you can still use a stencil and the tempera paints. Just wanted to point out that now that I've let the paint fully dry, I was able to come back in with my Uniball Signo and go over top of this and make them more of a solid silver. So before I had just went over it and it was still damp, so I just wanted to let you know that you really, if you want to go over top of it, let it dry fully, and then you'll have a much better result. Okay, I'll leave this video off with a look at this completed page, and hopefully you can see some of the shine and glitter or sheen from this. So this page was done 95% with just the Tempera paint sticks. I did a couple of Stabilo fine liners for a couple of the some of the berries here and here, and some of the leaves. So the dark green leaves here and here, I just went and got a fine liner and did them there, but all the light green leaves are done with the Tempera paint. All of these holly leaves are done with Tempera paint, and all of the bells. I used a Sparkle Pop silver for the little dongle thing inside the bells. I'm not sure what that's called. So the thing that really rings the bell. And then I also used a fine liner for the black dots on the flowers. But most of this page, I just had fun using the Tempera paint sticks. So I guess in conclusion, is the paint stick something that I recommend you necessarily need and run out and buy? The answer would be no. If you're just having fun in a sketchbook or multimedia page and you're drawing and painting and coloring with these, that's great. If you're trying to use them just in a coloring book, they are going to need a larger space. They are good for backgrounds or creating things. They are fine to go over if you want to go over something with a solid color and still have your illustrations showing through. That's kind of nice. But is it something that you're necessarily going to use as often as you say would a gel crayon or a gelato? Probably not. There are definitely some limitations with this. It is a fun medium. So if you like multimedia, great. But if you are someone that is just wanting your coloring book to have nice backgrounds that you use with a brush to brush on, then you're not going to want to use these. But regardless of what you decide to do, if you have used the paint sticks in your own coloring in a different way than I've shown here today, leave a comment below, because I love to learn from my fellow colorists. I love to know how you're using your coloring supplies, and I just want to wish everybody a creative and colorful day. Thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me today and learning a little bit more about Tempera paint sticks and how we can use them in adult coloring. All right, everyone, take care. Bye-bye. See you in the next video.